So our next lightning talk is from Edward Kay, who's the head of platforms and development at the Imperial War Museum, and he'll be talking about reimagining accessibility to collections with the help of AI. So welcome, Edward.
Hello, everyone. Normally I'd be a bit more whimsical, but I've only got 7 minutes, so bear with me. This is going to be a crash course in what we've been doing in the museum. So hopefully you guys are aware of the Imperial War Museum. We've been around about 110 years since the end of the First World War. We've got millions of objects in the collection. One of those sets of digital assets is our oral histories, which we have, we believe, the world's largest oral history collection. We digitized it in its completeness in 2021. We're still collecting new stories all the time. Most of those we can't publish for, I don't know, another 20 years or so because they're operationally sensitive or the GDPR reasons. But we have about 8,000 interviews which we can share. They've been on our website for the last decade or so, but there are a bunch of files that are collected. You can't really search through them very well. They're not easily findable. There's no accessibility to it. And we thought we had a question, which was, can tech help us to make this more accessible and more usable? And the reason why I'm saying tech is that AI was the tool we chose to use at the end, but it wasn't necessarily the tool we decided we wanted to start with. So, and you know, bear in mind, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. So we went through a whole discovery process. We came up with a solution that did involve AI to produce high quality solutions. Some numbers on the screen for you there, which we ended up with about 46,000 sound files. It's 8,000 interviews. It's about 21,000 hours. So if you listen to it end to end, it's about 2.5 years. So it's quite a lot of stuff. We did a bit of a back of the fag packet calculation, and to create transcripts of all of that, because we had nothing, would have taken about 22 years of work. So when we ran this through AI, it took us about 3 weeks. We did about a month of cleansing and of pulling in curatorial metadata, which is deeply impenetrable, but that eventually gave us a very good output. There's 15 languages that are included as well, so we tried to diversify as much as possible. We ended up with a result which gave us 99% accuracy on the transcriptions on the test that we've been able to do so far. As I said, 21,000 hours of content. We were able to diarise up to about 94% accuracy. We've also translated into 4 other European languages, so German, French, Italian and Spanish, which the museum traditionally hasn't had anything that's in any other languages other than English and sometimes German. Interesting, of these 8,000 interviews, only one of them is in German language. But we actually did interview quite a lot of German soldiers. They tend to be bilingual, which British soldiers sadly aren't, but that's a conversation for another time. So what we've really focused on is our work has been very much human-centered. So we've worked with our curators, we've worked with users, we've worked with the public, and also we made sure that we were using content that we owned the copyright to, and we had all rights. And that's important from an ethical point of view. The oral histories are basically somebody's remembrance of things. So, you know, if somebody remembers that they were in 1915 on the Somme and it was actually in 1916, that kind of doesn't matter. So the ethics of the data being accurate and their remembrance, we've lent into this being a remembrance rather than anything else. And as we all know, people's memories change over time. So we've got all of the information. There was a list of the things there that we were able to pull out from the oral histories, which we didn't have information on before. So summaries. So we have nice human readable summaries of all the interviews, which is really nice because the curatorial ones are frankly only for other curators. We also allow you to interact with each interview. So what we do is we treat each interview as in isolation. So create a RAG model around the individual interview so that it doesn't bleed into anything else, which reduces drastically the amount of hallucinations that can occur. And then you're able to, in natural language, question the interviewer or the interviewee. Sorry, you can say things like, "Were you ever scared? Were you ever happy? What's your recollections of things like that?" And one of the things that I thought was interesting, which I'll show you on this screen, is if you wanted to find information in any of our oral histories, it would literally take you the amount of time that the interviewee was speaking to find it. You literally had to listen to it in real time. It took me 3 minutes. I thought I'd do a Christmas story. So I did a search for the Christmas truce in 1914 and found one of the guys that we'd interviewed had actually kicked the football during the famous football match. It wasn't really a football match. There were no goalposts, so it was a bit of nostalgia going on with that. But I thought that was quite a nice thing to find really quickly. And I told our audio curators, and he said, "Oh my God, that would have taken me months to find that." So that's good. Very quickly talk about the second project that we're working on, which is in conjunction with Bloomberg. So we've done a volunteer project, which is essentially we've taken 10,000 images. A lot of our collection has very little metadata, by the way. We've taken 10,000 images. It's roughly innocuous stuff. There's a picture of ladies holding pineapples in Singapore, weirdly. Don't quite know why. But essentially, we've taken this, we've run an AI across it to produce a title and description. You can see there's a list of the images. And the volunteers have gone in. We've created a portal. They're going through the entire collection. They've done 3,000 in about 5 weeks. So this will be finished quite soon. But this allows our volunteers to add a human-centric approach to validating what the AI is producing. And then we'll take the delta between the volunteer output and the AI output, and then produce training material so that we can train the model to be a virtuous cycle. And if you want to ask me for any demos during the break, please feel free. I think that's me.